uh, where we advertisements as it is a sponsored paid form of communication where the advertisers or manufacturers or maybe the different people who want to reach out their consumers with the advertising, etc. They use this advertisements to reach out the consumers. It can be to create a brand image among the consumers or the customers, or it can be to reach out the consumers with positive public image or to build a corporate image with its advertising or to sell the products and services which they offer to its prospective consumers or the customers. Even the banks, they go for financial advertising where they also want to reach the investors or the stakeholders of their banks, etc., with their financial advertising. Along with that, each company which produces their own products and services, etc., that also use these advertisements to reach out their prospective consumers so that they will come and use the services or they buy the products or the services which are offered by different companies. Even the political parties and political leaders and the candidates also they go for advertising, that we call it as a political advertising, to reach out their uh, public with the promising whatever to create a kind of positive image among the public that would indirectly or directly grabs the attention of people towards the political party or the candidate that will help them to win in the elections, or it creates a kind of positive image among the public. So here even the governments also go for social advertising, social marketing techniques where they use to uh, create or sell a kind of products that would help the consumers. It is not a profit making business, but for the purpose of benefiting the consumers or the customers, they go for the social marketing or social advertising also, like wearing a helmet, maybe leave consumption of alcohol, tobacco, etc., as they would harm the health of the individuals, etc. That also being advertised by the government. That with the help of these advertisements, they are persuading this audience are those who are exposing to the advertisements to stop consuming those kind of alcohol or maybe the uh, consumption of drugs, wearing a helmet, etc. So here, even public service ads or public service advertising, where that is also being done by the government, where they also use celebrity testimonials or endorsements that we call written or oral statements by the celebrities to reach out their consumers as part of the advertisements. So here, whatever may be the motive, the advertisements would try to convince the consumers or the prospective customers to buy the services which are offered by a company or an organization. Even the governments use these advertisements to create a positive image among the public in the society, in a state, or maybe in a country. So we have, as part of the different kinds of media we use, like the advertising in the previous class we have discussed, based on the media, what we are using for the purpose of disseminating information by this sponsored, identified sponsor or a company, etc., to reach out the consumers based on the kind of medium they are using. The various kinds of advertisements are there. So here, that those are the categories. If you see the print media advertisements, electronic media advertisements, new media and social media advertising also is being done by these organizations or the marketers or maybe the identified sponsorer. So here we will today we'll see the advantages and disadvantages of print advertising that is being done by the marketing organizations. So here, As the print media that consists, in the previous class we have discussed, print media consists of your newspapers, magazines, or it also can include the books also if you are using for the purpose of disseminating information with the help of your advertisement. But most of the advertising is done using the newspapers and magazines to reach out the consumers with the right kind of information with the help of the advertisements that are placed in the newspapers and the magazines to reach their consumers or the customers with the intended message which is being there in the advertisement. So here, this is as the advertisements which you can categorize based on if you have an advertisement to reach your global audience, if you have the global public as your consumers, etc., then you can go for a kind of advertisements that would reach this global audience. Maybe you can go for television channels, or maybe go for your magazines or the newspapers, which can have its readers throughout the globe. But the advertisements, if you are choosing a newspaper as a medium to reach out to your consumers, the newspaper might not have its reach throughout the geographical area like the world. Because of that, it has its limitations. So you, as whatever the product you have or service you are offering for your consumer, based on that, you have a prospective group who are going to buy your products. So based on that, whoever are your consumers, how you want to reach your consumers with your advertisement. Suppose if you are going for a retail advertising or maybe regional advertising, you can be choosing one specific geographical area where there are different kinds of newspapers. If they are reaching out your consumers, then you may choose those kind of newspapers to reach your consumers with your advertisements. So here, the major advantage of this newspaper advertising is the what you call the specific geographical area that the newspaper would reach with the advertising if you are providing ads in the newspapers. So here, as the rise of literacy levels, literacy levels are rising. That has led the growth of the regional language newspapers, and based on your product and service, you are using the various kinds of newspapers, the national newspapers, the mainstream newspapers, etc., Hindi or English newspapers, or if you have a regional newspapers like the newspapers which are printed in the regional languages, that also you can choose to reach out your consumers. So newspapers are very popular uh, medium that the advertisers will choose to reach out their prospective consumers or the customers. If you see the characteristics of newspaper for your advertising, so the newspapers have a extensive penetration. So the advantage of the newspaper is that the high degree of market coverage or the penetration it has for to reach the consumers. So because of this extensive penetration a newspaper is having, the advertisers also choosing this newspaper as a medium to reach the consumers with their advertisement. So here, the extensive penetration is making the newspaper truly a mass medium, which provides the advertisers with an excellent opportunity to reach out all kinds of segments of population with the message which is being created in the form of the advertisement to reach the consumers or the customers. So here, newspaper also have a characteristic called flexibility. So here, the advertisers, in terms of placement of their ads, again, in terms of producing the ads for the newspaper is flexible. And here, if you see, If you want to create a newspaper advertisement with a text or a picture or a headline or sub-headline with the logo is it takes a short period of time. And if you want to insert your ad in a newspaper, generally it only takes you a 24 hours before prior time that you have to provide with your advertisement to the newspaper industry, and that will carry the news the advertising of whatever the identified sponsorer, uh, that would be carried in the newspaper in the next day. But if you compare with the what you call this magazines, etc., that have a longer duration of time to carry that information in the magazines. So based on the periodicity of your magazine, you have to give your ad prior to the publication of the magazine. It may be depending on the periodicity, maybe 1 month or 2 months before the publication of the magazine. But if it is a newspaper, with before 24 hours, if you can provide the ad to your newspaper organization, that can be carried in the newspaper in the next day. So because of that, many of the advertisers in rush also may go for this newspaper advertisements to reach their prospective consumers. And geographical selectivity. Newspapers generally offer advertisers more geographic or territory selectivity because of their reach. So here, a newspaper which has its retailers or which are within the coverage of a specific geographical area, if an advertiser want to reach only that specific geographical area, they can go for newspaper advertising. But if they want to go for a satellite television channel, etc., that has a wide coverage, and you might not have your consumers to reach out the global audience if you have a certain products that are only available for the consumers within a small geographical area, etc. So that makes a newspaper distinct from other mediums to choose to go for your advertising. And here, even the newspapers, you might choose your advertisements, different newspapers as a mediums to carry that your advertisement at the same time, so that those all those audience or the readers, those who are going to read different kinds of newspapers, also might be reaching with your advertisements if you choose a combination of different newspapers. And if you want to reach the national readers, etc., then you can go for national advertisers advertising, where it would cover the nation with your content if those kind of newspapers you choose, which have its reach throughout the nation. When it comes to the next advantage of a newspaper advertising is the reader involvement and acceptance. So here, the readers most of the time would consume news information, and also people use the newspaper as for the purpose of entertainment. And more often, they also while turning into the pages, they also go or expose themselves to the advertising that is being done in the newspapers. And most of the uh, consumers heavily they depend on the newspaper, or the consumers depend on the newspaper for the purpose of reading the advertisements, because it offers the time to read the content which is being provided in the advertisement. When you compare with the television or radio commercials, once they are transmitted, then there is you might not recollect that information what is being transmitted. If a television transmits beautiful attractive visuals, etc., then you might remember the visuals and the content or the product, etc. But if it is a radio, if you simply you might be listening to the ad, but you may not recollect that information which is being presented in the form of radio commercial. But here, if it is a newspaper, you can go back and you can look for the advertisement and you can read the terms and conditions and the product information and other related information in the advertisements. So most of the time, advertisers reach the consumer like with the retail advertising, etc., using this newspaper advertising more often. And the cover price is also very low if you compare with the other kind of mediums. Like a newspaper, you can afford to buy that newspaper only with the price like 3 rupees or 5 rupees, etc. But if you want to buy a magazine, it might cost you around 30 rupees or so. So here, the cost of the newspaper is also very less. Because of that, also you might have the consumers to buy the newspapers, and if they are subscribing to your newspaper, then they may witness your ads as. So here, that is also an advantage where because of that, the advertisers also go for the newspaper advertising very often. And here, then it is also a cheapest medium in terms of reach. So the press is a cheapest medium as it reaches the large geographical area with with your content or the advertisements, where it reaches the unidentified prospective buyers or your consumers. And here that might influence the audience to or the readers to buy your products and services. Then, if you see the advantages of newspaper advertising, what are the advantages you have if you are going for the newspaper advertising? So, in-depth coverage that is being given, like in the newspapers and magazines, that would provide detailed report that can be read by the uh, reader, those who are paying attention to your advertisements. And here variety of subjects are covered. Newspapers represent political, social, religious, ethnic, and language groups. Also magazines represent very sort of a special interest. You might have a general interest magazine or specialized like niche magazines also. Based on the kind of product you want to sell, you can choose different kinds of magazines. But if you have consumers who are general public, then you can choose your general interest magazines. And if it is like if you want to go for financial advertising also, then you can just go for your mint or business line or maybe financial express kind of newspapers to go for your advertising, as you have a prospective buyers are the one who are going to read your those kind of financial newspapers. But if you want to go and reach your prospective all those consumers, etc., to cover various kinds of advertisements, etc., then the general newspapers are more often are considered as the uh, medium by the advertisers. And mobility newspapers and magazines can be carried about uh, by the readers almost everywhere. So that is the advantage of a newspaper. And when they get even their leisure time, wherever they are, they can just go and read the content along with your advertisements. That is also another advantage. If you want to go for television commercials or radio, if they are there to maybe watch the commercials, then only they can expose themselves to the content, but otherwise they might not. But when if you are going for the television commercials, etc., the repetition or the scheduling of your ad is more when you compare with the newspaper. Even newspapers are being taken into consideration for repetitive ads, uh, the printed ads, so that it would create a kind of attention or create interest among the readers of a particular newspaper. And diversification beyond the print. Newspaper companies are entering into other businesses also, such as TV and education events, and even they have online and out of home advertising also, like outdoor advertising. So in those kind of cases, you can have an individual organizations which is into different kinds, which are stakeholders of different companies, media organizations, etc. Then you can go for advertising in not only one, but you can more than one uh, medium you can choose to reach out to your consumers. And when you see the regional language print markets, yeah, due to the literacy, the rise in the literacy levels of for the readers, or maybe due to the regional language newspapers which are there in the market, it is also a best medium to choose by the advertisers to go for newspaper advertising. And the statistics are available for the newspapers. So you have the Audit Bureau of Circulation that provides the circulation figures of each and every newspaper that is printed in India, and along with that, the magazine which are magazines circulations of circulation figures of the magazines also available with the ABC Audit Bureau of Circulation. Every 6 months they provide you the with the circulation figures. When it comes to the readership statistics, also available. Earlier we used to get the IRS report, Indian Readership Survey reports, that used to be provided by an organization that would conduct readership service among the readers of the newspapers, etc. But now they are not, the latest figures are not available. Pre-COVID, they have conducted. After that, they have not conducted the readership service. But even though we can get the circulation figures with the ABC. And when it comes to the readership also, earlier, based on the 2019 readership survey that was conducted by IRS, the Times of India was the leading newspaper in terms of readership in English language. And if you see the regional language newspaper, then the Inadu was the number one read newspaper in Telangana and Andhra Pradesh, followed by Sakshi newspaper was the highest read newspaper in Telangana. So when the statistics are available, prospective sponsorer or identified sponsorer who wants to give their ads in the newspaper, they can choose based on the circulation, based on the reach, based on the readership, etc. They can go for advertising in those kind of mediums to reach out their consumers or the customers. And improved printing. After the offset printing came into existence, a good quality pictures also is being carried in the newspapers along with the black and white. But the printing quality is good when you compare with the earlier printing. And but magazines have better printing quality, sharper images, etc. when you compare with the newspapers. And newspapers, as we have regional language newspapers and magazines, etc., to reach out our prospective consumers with the right kind of advertisements. And distribution, when it comes to the distributions, even the newspapers and also the magazines have distribution networks, a wide variety of distribution networks. They can be available even at the retail shop. So vendors may sell the newspapers. Even roadside tea shops also might sell the newspapers, which means they have high distribution network when you compare with the magazines. So newspaper distribution network is widely accessible for the each and every reader when you compare with the magazine. And if you see the limitations of your newspaper advertising, so here advertisers, the poor reproduction quality of your newspaper is less when you compare with the magazine advertising. So even though you have a color printing that is being, the advertisements are printed in color, the poor quality of your newspaper is something that might not be more attractive for the readers. But the advantage is the people can consume this content leisurely, and along with the news and entertainment and other information that a newspaper would provide the consumer. Along with that, they also may uh, uh, read the newspapers. Short lifespan. Magazines which may be having if you see the magazines, the shelf life of a magazine is more, but a daily newspaper has a uh, lesser shelf life. So here what is happening every day, you might be keep on getting a different daily newspapers, and the ads you might be unlikely, you might not be able to expose yourself to the ads each and every day. So here, to avoid that, even you can repeat your advertising so that the readers, prospective buyers might expose themselves to your advertising. So here, even lack of selectivity. Newspaper also can offer advertisers geographical selectivity, but if it is a television or the radio, if the signals are available with the help of your satellites, etc., then that would be covering the whole geographical area or the entire globe. But the newspapers are only having a selected geographical area to reach. That is also a disadvantage of a newspaper. And clutter, many of the newspapers are carrying different kinds of advertisements in their newspapers, and the ad space, whatever is devoted uh, to the advertisements, and there are many competitors who are maybe using this medium to reach out their prospective buyers as the consumers. So here the your advertisers message must have must yeah what grab the attention of your in grab the attention of your consumers. So you have to use the right kind of visuals, right kind of text, logos, and eye-catching headlines, etc., so that your prospective buyer may pay attention to your advertisements. So to compete with others, you can go for a color printing and with eye-catching headlines and the pictures which would create interest among your readers. And poor newsprint is also one of the disadvantage of a newspaper. So when you see the magazine printing, etc., comparatively, the newsprint of a newspaper is a lesser quality, and even the images, if you are using color printing, etc., that also might not be more appealing when you compare with the advertising that is being done in the magazines. And passive medium, like the readers may turn in their pages and they might not pay attention to your advertisement sometimes. But when it comes to TV and radio, they have a captive audience where they can pay attention, that maybe because of the audiovisual content, etc., that are more attractive creates interest among the consumer than the uh, printed advertisements. Then it is also a static medium. So here the the press, it is it is a static medium that only have containing a text or an image or a headline that might not be more appealing to the audience, but like sound, the movement of the characters, or the what you call the beautiful faces or the characters which appear on the screen, etc., might appeal the audience. And that more also offers for example, if you are going for advertising a product, it is more convincing if you go for television advertising, where it will have the audio and visual, and the product can be seen by the consumers. They can hear the information in the form of the sound, and that would be more attractive to your consumers than the radio commercials, etc. But even the newspaper, it has its own advantages and disadvantages when you go for advertising. Even the if you go for magazine advertising, like along with the newspaper, when you uh, see the advertising on the print medium, it is also a news magazines that also being used by the advertisers or the organization to reach out their prospective buyers or the consumers. And even we can see different kinds of magazines which would have different kinds of content that they are carrying in these magazines to reach out their consumers, like what we call them as a niche magazines or specialized magazines, where advertising is also is being done by the organizations. So here, like if you want to reach out your consumers, like the business personalities, etc., then there are magazines which are exclusively having the content related to business and profits or maybe sunsets, the figures, or those who are into different kinds of business also may purchase those kind of magazines. So if you are going with your right kind of information to your prospective buyers, then that would they may pay attention to your content. So in those kind of cases, the magazine advertising plays an important role. For example, if you want to target women as your consumers with life or maybe the lifestyle products or women jewelry or clothing, etc., or maybe you want to provide information relates to cookery things, etc. So here you may go for niche magazines which are meant for the women exclusively, like Femina and other magazines, where they can you can go for advertising so that the woman might be influenced with the content when they uh, see those kind of ads in those kind of specialized magazines. So advantages of your magazines again, the selectivity. You can uh, select your target group with the right kind of magazine, like whatever. Just now I have said that special interest magazines or general interest magazines. If you want to reach out each and every consumer, you may go for general interest magazines. Or if you want to go for film advertising, etc., then you have film magazines. If you want to go for maybe like education or maybe if you want to go for promotion of your institution, educational institutions, etc., you may go for even current affairs magazines, etc. So each target group, keeping in view who is your target audience, then based on that, you can go for selective advertising where that targets a specific uh, population. So here, uh, all kinds of magazines are available, whether it can be a consumer based or business or maybe niche magazines or general interest magazines. So based on what you want to sell with your prospective buyers, then you can go for the selective advertising. And reproduction quality is the quality of paper stock, and the printing quality is more good when you compare with the newspaper printing, etc. Even it is in black and white or color printing, etc. The magazine, because of the paper and the sharpness in the image printing, etc., that are more attractive to the consumers. They can, if you are advertising a product, people can see the product, how it looks like on the physical copy of your magazine. So here that is a advantage of your advertising over the magazine. And creative flexibility. Magazines also offer the advertisers a great deal of flexibility in terms of the type, the size, and placement of advertising material. Anyway, maybe it can be a center spread or cover page, back page, or it can be insertions, or it can be anything. So that offers the advertisers to go for this magazine advertising, and that would create a interest, or it grabs the attention of your prospective readers. And even the growth of specialty magazines like finance, lifestyle, healthcare, travel, etc., that are being reaching the specialized audience. And if you want to reach out your prospective buyers, etc., then you can go for those kind of magazines where you can advertise your products and services. And even there is an increase in the foreign direct investments and public funds from foreign also entering into the Indian magazine market, where they can 100% they can have share in Indian editions. Because of that, that would offer your global consumers to reach out. So here, permanence, again, that is also another advantage of your magazine advertising. It has a long lifespan. So magazines, however, generally read over several days, or it can also, the copies of the magazine also can be preserved in shelves where you can go back and refer to your magazines. And the limitations of your magazines, again, the cost of advertising in magazines is varies according to the reach of your their magazine. Then limited reach and frequency. Yes, they have a limited reach or specific geographical area. They might have reach and frequency. The like if it is a newspaper, even within 24 hours prior you can give advertisement. But when it comes to your magazines, you have to, based on the periodicity of your magazine, you can go for advertising in the magazines. So it can be 3 months before or 1 month before, or it can be a 15 days before. You have to prepare your ad. And after that, after giving your ad to the concerned magazine owner or publisher, you can't make any changes in the ad. So long lead time, that is just now I said, there's if you want to prepare your ad, you have to provide this ad prior to the publishing date, maybe 30 days or etc. So here, even the frequency of your magazines is maybe when you compare with the newspaper, every day you may get a newspaper and you can go for inserting your ads in the newspaper. But if it is a magazine, maybe based on the periodicity and frequency, you can go for advertising in the magazines, etc. And clutter, most of the magazines have almost 45% of the space is being provided to the advertising in the magazines, where it becomes difficult for the advertisers in placement of their own ads. So here, the readers might not pay attention to all those ads which are being printed in the magazines. So here, because of that, to avoid that kind of problems, you should go for advertising that would have its that would create interest among your readers. Maybe eye-catching headlines and other things you can use, or the attractive pictures so that people might pay attention to your ad or the content what you are providing for your readers. So here, when it comes to your layout of an advertisement in the newspaper or maybe for the magazine, generally the you would first prepare a thumbnail based on how a news ad would, the advertisement would look like. And based on that, you will prepare a rough and composite, then the reproduction proof is being done. So these are the various stages. So as a newspaper, if you want to give an advertisement to a newspaper, you might, as a organization, you might have your own in-house advertising agency, or you may go for a client service where they will prepare an advertisements for your organization based on the idea you want to put in for your maybe the prospective buyers. So thumbnail is something that is being first prepared, where it is we call it as a miniature roughs. those are called as the thumbnails, and they help the designers and writers to quickly generate a variety of approaches regarding the kind of advertising you are going to do for reaching out your consumers. And based on that, a rough is something is prepared. Rough shows the best thumbnail layouts in the exact size of the final ad, how it looks like, and it can be produced with drawing with a pen or a pencil, or you can also compose the text, layout, everything over the computer. Then after that, the composite is something that would the rough would be shown to the clients for finalizing your the advertising, etc. And if there are any errors to be corrected, and whether that is appealing or not, whether the intention of the sponsor or advertiser is fulfilling in the ad or not, etc., or whether the quality, whether it is good or not. Based on that, after taking the suggestions, etc., the reproduction of the proof is being done. That is something which we can see those kind of final advertisements in the newspapers and magazines. So here there are different kinds of principles as a person has to look into while preparing the advertisements. But to attract your prospective consumers, you have to first has to think about from the point of view from the customers. So if your attention is always first, you have to create attention among your prospective buyers or those who are paying attention on your ad. So here, advertising is absolutely something. It has to get attention first. Uh, it has to attract the prospective buyers or the one who are paying attention to your ad. And strong imaginary is the best thing to get to attract the consumers, etc. Good pictures with large visuals that might attract the people. So here, even along with the visuals, if you are going for the messages, whatever the message which is intended to go along with your advertisement, uh, that should not mislead your readers. And you should not be like similar to the other advertisers. Your advertisement should be a different one. It should be grabbing the attention of your audience or the prospective buyers. So even funny things or unusual things or different things also can create some kind of interest among the readers. So here, uh, based on all these things, contrast is something. It is also mm, what you call a designing element. Like how, what are the elements you are using in your print ad, how those visual elements are playing a different role. So the color or the picture, the headline, how they look like. So they must be having element called contrast that would grab the attention of the people. So here, as today we have completed this print advertising, then we will have the next session where we will discuss about the electronic media advertising, where we have the radio commercials, television commercials, and what has to go into making the television advertisements, and also the advantages of radio advertising, disadvantages along with that, advantages and disadvantages of television advertising, everything is there. That we will discuss in the next class. So, okay, I'm stop sharing the content here. Okay, I'm leaving the session. Thank you.